The Phoenix Suns are known for being the most hated and controversial team in the NBA. It's mainly due to Devin Booker's inability to deliver in big moments, and many fans think he complains entirely too much about foul calls. Then, of course, you have the incident versus the Lakers this season where Devin Booker hard fouled Austin Reeves. Then his teammate DeAndre Ayton decided to stand over the defenseless Reeves while he was on the ground. And then the menace himself, Patrick Beverley, was ejected for shoving him to the ground. That, among other reasons, is why they aren't popular among basketball fans. But what if we told you there was another team that just maybe has surpassed them in antics and unpopularity? Yes, we're talking about the boys from Grind City, the Memphis Grizzlies. It really started last year when Dillon Brooks injured Warriors guard Gary Payton II. And not just pulled a hammy or something, but he fractured his elbow. And then in Game 6, Dillon Brooks pushed Warriors superstar Steph Curry to the ground and earned himself a flagrant 1. Due to the viciousness of these two fouls, Brooks quickly became a villain in the NBA. Then, after a game earlier this season, Thompson spoke with ESPN's Lisa Salters about the message the Warriors wanted to send during the anticipated marquee rematch. Needless to say, the four-time NBA champion made it clear he did not appreciate the comments that the Grizzlies were already being labeled as a dynasty. He said this: "Man, they were talking about dynasty and all that. You can't talk about dynasty when you haven't won one before. I don't think people realize how hard it is, the commitment, the sacrifice it takes. You gotta sacrifice your body." And I thought it was premature to even mention that word. He's got a point. It's safe to say Klay Thompson isn't too fond of anything the Grizzlies say or do. But things don't stop there, because Ja Morant got himself in trouble for the whole laser incident. After the game against the Pacers, Morant was asked about the incident, and he said it began when Indiana rookie Andrew Nembhard started talking trash to his father. "Andrew told my pops to shut up. Pretty much, I heard my pops ask him if he said shut up. So I was trying to figure out who he was talking to. Obviously, I had seen it was him, so I approached him, seeing what he was on. Checked his temperature. He didn't have a fever. Then Duarte came over, tried to push me. I told him to stop pushing me. He said he was cooling. Then his teammates came over. Then he started talking." Later, after the game, Morant aggressively confronted members of the Pacers traveling party near the team bus at the FedEx Forum. And following that, someone shone a red laser dot on them from a slow-moving SUV that Morant was riding in, an action many interpreted as a threat. That's a lot of controversy already, but luckily it stopped there. Oh wait, no. It doesn't. On January 20th, 2023, the Grizzlies and Los Angeles Lakers faced off. This was a big game in general due to some of the best players in the NBA going head-to-head with each other, namely LeBron James and Ja Morant. And boy, did fans get what they paid for, but not necessarily in the way they expected. As the second quarter buzzer sounded, the Grizzlies star forward Dillon Brooks was shouting at the sideline to what appeared to be your average everyday fan. However, when the camera panned onto the fan, we all soon realized this wasn't just your average fan. It was none other than three-time Super Bowl champion and NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe, and he was having none of it with Brooks. The entire Grizzlies team even approached the retired Hall of Famer, but he stood his ground. And when you're built like Shannon Sharpe, it's no surprise why he chose to stay stationary in the face of multiple towering NBA professionals. Because even at 54 years old, he is in phenomenal shape. And although Steven Adams is a giant man himself, even he looked kinda small in comparison to Shannon. But just what started this feud? Well, according to Sharpe, he called Brooks too small when guarding LeBron. And the competitive Brooks obviously didn't take to that lightly. But it's what he said after the game that lit the social media world on fire and turned almost everyone against not only Brooks, but the entire Grizzlies team. Following the Grizzlies' loss, Brooks was asked if it was appropriate for Sharpe to have a verbal altercation with the team. And well, he said this: "A regular pedestrian like him? No, he shouldn't have ever come back in the game, but that's LA." Brooks also referred to Sharpe as a blogger during the post-game media session. I ain't talking about that. You can ask him. He's a blogger, whatever he is. I don't really care about all that. Next question. Yeesh, that was interesting. And of course, it doesn't stop there, because Ja Morant was in yet another controversial situation. But this time, it wasn't really that bad if we're being honest. When asked by ESPN reporter Malika Andrews, does he worry about any team specifically, he only mentioned the Boston Celtics, then finished off that topic by saying he's fine in the West. Personally, we don't see anything wrong with his comment. He's a competitor and a hard-working professional athlete. But we are absolutely sure he really believes he and his team can beat anyone. But it did sort of backfire when two all-time great scorers in KD and Kyrie both joined the Western Conference shortly after that comment. The ultra-confident Morant ultimately doubled down on his statement, as expected. But now, let's move away from the drama and take a deep dive into the Grizzlies roster as a whole and talk about all of their key impact players to see if they really are fine in the West. And of course, we have to start with Morant. He's averaging 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists while shooting 46% from the field, 74% from the free throw line, and 31% from 3-on-5 attempts per game. So he is still playing at an MVP level. And what's even more insane is that he's still a force in the paint even at 6'3", only weighing about 170 to 175 pounds. When you factor in attempts, Morant is ranked 5th in the NBA in shots within 5 feet from the basket. The 4 other players in front of him are Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Giannis, and Zion Williamson. So he's driving at the same rate as players who weigh over 250 pounds. He's also 2nd in drives per game and 2nd in percentage off of drives. He's just so explosive and quick. Once he gets into the lane, it's almost impossible to stop him. And although he isn't shooting great from 3, he's still a respectable shooter. And when he has it going, he can drain timely shots from range. But assisting the ball is definitely the most underrated part of his game and probably has been for his entire career, and honestly, that's not really a surprise. When you can jump and dunk like he can, everything else is instantly placed on the back burner. When watching him play, it's obvious he's built great chemistry with his teammates out on the floor. He's a good decision maker and has teammates who can make shots. On the defensive end, he isn't really much of a defender. But interestingly enough, he's actually 7th in the NBA in defensive loose balls recovered. So he isn't afraid to sacrifice his body for the team in order to win games. Now let's take a look at first-time All-Star Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren's averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.2 blocks per game. On the offensive end, he can score in just about every way. In the post, while he's not an amazing post scorer, he does know how to use his athleticism and patience to his advantage. He also has a decent mid-range shooter and three-pointer, shooting almost 35% from 3 on 4.4 attempts per game. The most impressive thing about his offensive game are his handles. He can get the ball at the top of the key or in transition and push the ball all the way down the floor. And once he gets to the rim, it's game over. But on the defensive end is where he proves his true value. He's one of the very best shot blockers and overall defenders in the NBA today. He has incredible shot blocking instincts that only maybe a few other players like Rudy Gobert, AD, and Robert Williams have. He blocks shots that seem impossible to block at first, but with his insane athleticism and massive 7'4" wingspan, nothing is out of reach for the Memphis forward. But he doesn't just affect shots at the rim, because he's also mobile enough to guard out on the perimeter when he needs to. He's really the true definition of a modern center, perfect for today's game in every single way. And while he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, the Grizzlies do have another candidate on their roster as well, Dillon Brooks. You can call him a bum, trash, or a dirty player all you want, but the fact remains Brooks is a heck of a player. He's averaging 14 points per game while being only just an okay shooter. And while he's shooting just 31% on the season, he's shooting 35% over his last 7 games. So it would appear he's slowly climbing out of his shooting slump. Other than shooting, he has decent handles and shot creating abilities that have improved every year he's been in the league. He knows his role on offense and he never tries to outdo that role. And that's why he's so important to the team. But just like Jaren Jackson Jr., Brooks' true value comes out on defense. Funny thing is, during that Lakers-Grizzlies game when Shannon Sharpe called him too small, Brooks actually defended LeBron well that entire game, just like he does every night on every other superstar. You can hate him for his dirty antics, but he's a great defender that wins ball games. The other player on the roster who falls in that same category is Steven Adams, the best rebounder and screen setter in basketball. He's first in the NBA in offensive rebounds and first in screen assists per game. Without him, the Grizzlies would not have a chance at competing in the playoffs, because he does all of the little things better than anyone else. He gets his all-stars open looks and he gets them multiple extra possessions. In the clutch, all of those things matter more than ever. He's also a really good rim protector. Actually, he's statistically one of the best rim protectors in the game right now. And it's because he's such a bruising force down low. And at 265 pounds, he'll bang with absolutely anyone. We just feel bad for whoever has to go toe-to-toe with him. For Desmond Bane, he's quietly having an amazing season, averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists while shooting an incredible 41% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. Not to mention, he's shooting 90% from the line. Bane is only 24 years old, so if he gets even a little bit better, we wouldn't be surprised to see him in a future All-Star game. And of course, you can't forget players like Luke Kennard and Tyus Jones, who are some of the best bench players in the NBA. Jones controls that second unit at an elite level, and he does a little bit of everything on the court. He can shoot, pass, and he's a great decision maker. For Luke, he's shooting 46% from deep on 3 attempts per game, which is nothing new there. That man knows how to put the ball in the basket. Then the Grizzlies have Kennedy Chandler, David Roddy, John Conchar, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, and Santi Aldama coming off the bench. A bench that is absolutely stacked and fits perfectly with Ja and Triple J. On paper, the Memphis Grizzlies can compete with anyone, but only if they can keep it all under control. But what do you think? Is Ja really fine in the West? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.